Welcome to the EQ Video Tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we're so thankful that you're here to watch another great episode. Before we jump in, let's review the goals of EQ Video Tip. Welcome back. We're going to talk today about an article from Deb Liu, who writes an article about the bias that no one talks about. Well, if no one's talking about it, how can we be biased? And it's actually interesting because we're talking about introverts or extroverts as well, but why there's a bias in the workplace towards an extrovert. And Deb does some great research, and she finds out that while only about 5% of the time at the workplace are we spent talking, it actually influences over 50% of the way that people judge us. And so what does that mean? For someone who's an introvert, it gives them a bias or a negative bias towards how people look at them, judge them, and even how they're able to bring up their own opinions. On the flip side, if you're an extrovert, well, you might jump to the head of the class just because you're able to answer or talk very quickly and react to things and respond very quickly in terms of how you process information. We're going to talk about this bias, how to get over it if you are an introvert, but at the same time, what to do if you're an extrovert and what to do as a leader to help make sure that the bias is not weighted the wrong way. Let's jump in. Tip number one, and this goes for introverts, but it's also a good one for extroverts. If you're on the quiet side, learn to speak up. And that sounds easy, but it's not that easy if you are that introvert. So what do? Think about an upcoming meeting, process it, and start to plan when there will be open discussion time. When that happens, set a goal for yourself prior to the meeting to figure out how much you want to talk and what you want to convey within that. Maybe it's just one thing, or set yourself a quota of talking 3 times or 5 times or whatever it might be within that meeting. Prepare some things that you're going to talk about because you know what the topic at hand is going to be, and plan ways to expand your thoughts as the meeting goes through, because you might have some ideas or questions for other people. Try to think and be in a proactive stance as opposed to a reactive one. Now, do that for one meeting, but then plan that for the next and the next and the next, so it becomes a habit and becomes part of your daily routine as you head into different meetings throughout the week or month or year as they go through. Over time, hopefully this will gain confidence in you, and you can start to level up your game, so to speak, and be ready so that you can talk even more. Another tip that Deb mentions is join something like Toastmasters, which is a way to talk and speak in a public setting or public forum. Start slow and build up gradually. That's the most important piece. Tip number 2, if you're the leader, change the process. And what do we mean by that? Well, the process typically in meetings is the leader throws out information, and then whoever feels like they can speak, speaks fast and speaks as fast as they can and answers first. Instead of doing that, change the process up a bit. Send out a pre-read. We like to do that a lot here, sending a pre-read so everybody has a chance to digest the information, and then ask people potentially to fill out a survey or to look through the information before that. And if you're the leader, go around the room. Call on people who don't usually get called on. Those who haven't spoken or don't typically speak, maybe have them go first. But give yourself an opportunity to allow everyone to have an opinion. This gives a more diverse way of approaching problems and ensures that everyone has the opportunity to speak, and it changes the process to allow it to be a more unified and democratic process as opposed to the extroverts giving their opinions. Try changing the process to help improve that bias. Tip number 3, try being an ally. Deb uses a great example where PMs or product managers would always announce a new product in a team meeting, and they were typically the extroverts, while the engineering team, who were typically introverts, would sit back and just listen. What she recommended, and what this author was saying, is that have someone from the team be an ally to the main speaker, meaning they give more information, provide color commentary, go into more details, and explain why the idea, or in this case, the product was such a great thing and what happened. So if you're comfortable in that vein, in that setting, try to be an ally for someone, even if it means going to them beforehand to understand what they're talking about and then expanding upon it. Or if you can, in spur of the moment, listen to their message and then speak up and talk about how it helped out. This will help, again, negate some of the bias that we're trying to avoid. Our last tip. Remember that this is a process, especially for introverts. This takes a lot of time. So take your time in doing it. As an extrovert, make sure that you're giving good feedback and encouraging your introvert colleagues and friends time to talk and express their opinions. Remember, the more diverse of an audience that you have and of opinions you have, the better chance you are in terms of success for whatever product, whatever offering, whatever ideas that you're trying to come up with. So understand that this is a process, especially for the introverts, but in the long run, realize that bringing this together will only strengthen the position of yourselves, of your team, and of your company. That concludes this week's EQ video tip. Thanks again for watching. Remember, these tips are meant to help you and your team become better. Take what you find useful from this tip and expand upon it within your environment. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ Video Tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.